Chevrolet Corvette C7 Review. 6 decades and as many model generations of perennial sales success have already assured the Chevrolet Corvette of its place in the Automotive Hall of Fame. The Corvette's heritage rivals that of any European sports car. The first generation was launched in 1953, but it was the second that was dubbed Stingray, despite the Mako shark being among the inspirations for its appearance. The name fell out of use from the mid-1970s, but the Corvette has continued as a staple of Chevrolet's lineup. The C6 Corvette was sold for 8 years. It included the ZR1, the sole recipient of the LS9, the most powerful engine ever used in a GM production car. The US's favorite sports car is a legend in its own backyard, but huge popularity at home has held this car back by allowing it to dodge the advancing standards of Europe's sporting best. General Motors simply never needed the export volume. Until now, that is, and the arrival of the 7th generation Corvette. With this car, GM has broadened its horizons and ambitions, which is why this C7 Corvette has got a lightweight aluminum frame, carbon fiber panels, direct fuel injection and a great deal more. It's also why it has been renamed Stingray in honor bestowed on only 2 of its predecessors. But Chevrolet weren't done there, unearthing another name from its history in the shape of the Grand Sport as a homage to the 1963 race car. This version has been through an intensive retuning program for Europe, and it comes with a much richer standard specification on our side of the pond than it does in the US. Despite the European withdrawal of the Chevrolet brand, it's a car us Brits can still buy, albeit in left-hand drive form. So should we? True to its roots but renewed to meet modern tastes, the Corvette remains a sports car of a singular type. Little else in cardom looks as low or as long as this car in profile. The Corvette's short suspension turrets facilitate that low bonnet height, while the roofline of that swept-back cabin is also extra low, even by sports car standards. The net result is that while this car is barely a couple of millimeters longer than a Porsche 911, it appears much longer and sleeker. It looks like almost nothing else on the road, in fact, and little short of show-stopping. Underneath the Corvette's panels, plastic composite for the most part, with a carbon fiber bonnet and removable hardtop roof, you'll find a redesigned box section frame. Now in aluminum, it's 60% stiffer than the aluminum one from the outgoing Corvette ZR1, and also 45 kilograms lighter than the steel frame of the regular 6th generation Corvette. Hung from that frame are new hollow-cast aluminum chassis subframes and unequal-length double wishbones for both the front and rear suspension. Instead of coiled springs, Chevrolet continues with composite transverse leaf springs because they create the compactness that delivers the Corvette's jaw-dropping looks, and its generous boot space. In official European spec cars, those leaf springs are teamed with adaptive magnetorheological dampers as standard. The engine providing the motive power is a Chevy small block V8, it would have to be, but it's anything but antiquated. The Oversquare, 6162cc power plant, codenamed LT1, is naturally aspirated and comes with direct fuel injection, continuously variable valve timing and cylinder deactivation. With 465 pounds-foot, it makes 50 pounds-foot more than the previous model's V8 and promises combined fuel economy of 24 miles per gallon. Driving through a 7-speed manual transmission, the only option available on European cars, it also promises to propel this new Stingray to 60 miles per hour from rest in just 4.2 seconds. The easiest way to get hold of a new Stingray in the UK will probably be to buy one from an independent grey importer, but it may not be the smartest way to buy one. GM Europe fits all of its official imports of the car with Chevrolet's Z51 performance upgrade as standard, as well as providing a warranty and retuning its cars for European roads. The Z51 package is about more than upgraded dampers and a racing stripe, mind. Granted, it does bring with it new springs, dampers and anti-roll bars. But it also includes Chevrolet's electronically controlled limited-slip differential, dry sump lubrication for the engine, a shorter final drive for the transmission, larger wheels and tires and better brakes. More importantly, It buys you dedicated cooling systems for the transaxle transmission and differential. Without those, GM insiders admit, the car's drivetrain has a tendency to overheat during track use and at prolonged high speeds on the autobahn. The latter is unlikely to be a problem, of course, on 55 miles per hour limited American roads. In these times of forced induction and downsizing, it's a pretty lazy petrol motor that produces just 75 bhp per liter. But that figure gives you some idea of the big-heartedness of the Corvette's 6.2-liter V8. It fires to a lazy, throbby idle that, as in the Vauxhall VXR8, emits less of a baritone rumble than you might expect, due to the demands of modern emissions and noise regulations. But there's character here, no question. Give the throttle a positive prod and it sends the Corvette's body rocking mildly. Engaging gears and using the medium weight, long throw clutch is a refreshingly physical experience, but the powertrain is incredibly tractable, as you'd expect. Frankly, were it limited to only second and fourth gears, the Corvette would still get along quite nicely. As it is, we coaxed it from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds behind the claim, but the fact that we figure 2 up, with lots of fuel on board, and take our measurements from complete rest, rather than a 1-foot rollout, accounts for that. Either way, this car doesn't lack performance. If the engine were in a different place and there was a dual-clutch automatic gearbox to join the launch control, which performed little better than our own feet, you'd probably be looking at a 0 to 60 miles per hour number that starts with a 3. As it is, 100 miles per hour comes up in comfortably less than 10 seconds and a standing quarter mile in 12.6 seconds. Premier League performance, in other words. Premier League flexibility, too. Some of our testers found the throttle response a little slow, but that's to be expected with an engine of this capacity. Keep it in the mid-range and it's perfectly responsive, and it's here that the sound comes alive. We'd prefer it if the gearbox had 6 well-spaced ratios that could be more easily selected, rather than a 7th that is too easy to catch when you're after 5th, but by and large it is positive enough. And there's no denying that the leggy gearing improves touring economy. 7th is worth almost 50 miles per hour per 1,000 revolutions per minute. As does the fact that the engine can slip into cylinder shutdown mode on a part throttle cruise. Not imperceptibly, unfortunately.